Hello, welcome back to Hydroponics Daily. Today we're going to talk about a subject that's very important to hydroponics, and that's day neutral versus photoperiodic plants. Day neutral is also known as auto flowering. So these plants flower regardless of the length of the daylight that they receive, or more critically, the length of the night. And so day neutral plants will flower after a certain number of weeks growing in your grow environment. And for some crops, you'll get day neutral or auto flowering varieties or strains. And for others, you'll get photoperiodic ones. And some people prefer day neutral because that fits into their grow environment. Some people prefer photoperiodic because they can control exactly when they switch from vegetative growth to flowering. Also, some people say that the products produced, the yield, the harvestable crop might be better in one rather than the other due to a variety of genetic issues. So as I say, you often talk about day length or photoperiod. But it's not the day length that's actually the critical point. It's the night length that's important. And that's because in the plants, all plants have this pigment called phytochrome. So not chlorophyll, that's another pigment, or it's phytochrome. And that absorbs red light during the day, and then when it goes into darkness, it converts back into another form. And how long it's converting back tells the plant how long it's spent in night and day. And so if you flash light at a plant during the night, it'll reset its phytochrome. So it's the length of the night that's been found to be very important. So some plants are long day plants, and they flower when the day lengths get long and the nights are short, and others are short day plants that flower when the days are shorter or shortening. So example would be lettuce is a long day plant and others are short day plants. So you use this, you find out what your crop is, and then you adjust the day length. So you might be growing for a short day plant, you might be growing in 18-hour day lengths when you're trying to keep them vegetative, and then reduce that to say 12 hours. Now, how much you reduce them by or increase them by is based on something called the critical day length. And that is the amount of time it has to be spent in day and night in a 24-hour period. And that's critical. That's critical. So if you go above or below that, that's when they switch from from flowering to vegetative, and vice versa. And that varies depending on the particular species. Some have critical day lengths of 12 hours, some have 15, 16, and it can get very complicated. If you look in the research, I did my PhD doctorate thesis on flowering in rhododendron, and I looked at all the different types of flowering in all the different plant species, and you get things like short, long day plants that need short days, then long days. You have plants that need to have a winter period before they can be photoperiodic. You have plants that need to grow for many, many years before they will respond to photoperiod, and they have a long juvenile period. Other plants like morning glory, it's photoperiodic straight away as soon as it's germinated. And if you give it the right day length, it'll flower straight away. Hops is an interesting one. It's in the cannabis family. And hops, if you grow it in Zimbabwe, you have to give it artificial light because it doesn't flower with the day lengths in Zimbabwe. And so people tried to grow hops for beer production down there, and then they really struggled, and the plants wouldn't grow tall either. So it's a vine crop, and there was really big issues with hops. So day neutral, auto flowering, other things like temperature will have more of an effect on how long it takes you to flower in these plants, but they will just switch after a certain number of weeks. And then these photoperiodic plants, you can take cuttings from when they're staying vegetative, whereas these plants, they're a ticking time bomb. You can't take cuttings from them because they're going to be flowering after a certain number of weeks, and even those cuttings are going to be flowering after a certain number of weeks, regardless of from the point the seed is germinated. So that's something to consider with day neutral plants. And day neutral plants are very useful in growing outdoors. If you've got a plant with a long life cycle and you need it to flower and fruit before the frosts and the damp of autumn come in, they're really good. So think about day neutral plants are really good for growing outdoors, whereas photoperiodics tend to be favoured indoors where you've got more manipulation over the grow environment. So that's Hydroponics Daily for today. I've probably missed something. So if I've missed something really important, comment and I'm sure to include it on another video. Thank you, or podcast.